Patterns. They are a sequence of notes that demonstrate a logical sound or concept. They can be played long, or they can be short, like a cell. Also, a pattern can take on a whole new character when it's transposed to a different interval. For every new pattern that you memorize and ingrain, consider it like a new color on your painter's palette, ready to be used in your improvisation. In this video, I'm going to share with you several patterns that you can add to your palette and share some tips along the way. All these patterns come from our brand new resource here at Jazz Lesson Videos entitled 100 Patterns for Jazz Improvisation. In it, you will find 100 diverse patterns rooted in the jazz language, ranging from colorful cells, to bebop motifs, to 2/5 sequences, to modern patterns based on symmetrical scales, hexatonics, fourths, and fifths. All of the material is written in 12 keys for you, so if you're interested in downloading this resource, 100 Patterns for Jazz Improvisation, you can find the link in the description below and use code PATTERNS5 for $5 off. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the first pattern. This is a pattern that comes from the whole tone scale, found in the Symmetrical chapter of the 100 Patterns for Jazz Improvisation resource. First, let's hear it, then we'll break it down. So what's going on here? Essentially, we've got two different augmented triads a whole step apart. They're both being arpeggiated a little bit differently. For the first one here, we play the D augmented triad's root, then dip down to its third, walk up to its augmented or sharp fifth, and return to the root. Now we switch to the C augmented triad here, starting on its root C, and walk down to the G sharp, being the augmented 5, then E, being the third, and we finally return to the root. From here, we go to the augmented triad a whole step below this one, which is the B flat augmented triad, and we repeat this pattern over and over. Let's hear all this again one more time. So one tip for this pattern is once you've learned one and is feeling pretty comfortable, try and see if you can disguise it within your improvisation. If you just smack dab, copy and paste it, it's usually not going to sound organic. It's going to sound something like this. But if you play it, then let it go at the right time and smoothly blend it into other material, then patterns are a really powerful tool. Great. So the second pattern of today's video comes from the Melodic Motifs chapter of the book. First, let's hear it, then we'll break it down. So what's going on here? This is a common figure played in jazz solos. We start with a chromatic approach tone that targets the fifth of a minor 7 chord, then walk up to the flat 7th. Then we play a backwards 1, 2, 3, 5 cell. And to really cement it in our ears and fingers, we play it in all 12 keys by walking down half steps. Let's hear it all one more time. So a tip for this pattern, or any pattern, is that the goal of learning the pattern doesn't always need to be for it to get into your improvisation. Sometimes by not making that the goal, it creeps up into your improvisation even faster than if you were to make it the goal. If you take a pattern that's foreign to you, but you really like it, and you just practice it consistently for several weeks with no other intention other than just to master it, then by the end of that pursuit, you've just made your technique better, you've strengthened your memory, you've got faster ears, your next transcription will come to you faster, and you might even notice every time someone else plays that line. Awesome. So the next pattern comes from the 2/5 sequences chapter of the book. First, let's hear it, then we'll break it down. So what's going on here? We're playing 2-5-1 chord progressions. This pattern is based on a concept called upper structures. An upper structure is a chord found inside of another chord that's based on any pitch other than the root. In this case, for the 2 chord, we find the flat third, B flat, and play the notes of B flat major 7. This is our upper structure. We play this upper structure B flat major 7, starting on its major 7th, which is this G minor 7 chord's 9th. And we go down this structure till we get to its 7 again, and we come back up. Now for the 5 chord C dominant 7, we're going to voice lead into another upper structure found on this chord's flat 7th, which will be the B flat major 7 flat 5. This structure is also called a Lydian grip, and it gets this name because a flat 5 is the same thing as a sharp 11. The sharp 11 is the quintessential note of the Lydian mode, and we call it a grip simply because these 4 notes would easily fit in one hand or grip if you were to play it on the piano. Anyway, finally, for the 1 chord, we play an upper structure minor 7 chord from the 3rd, A minor 7. These 3 upper structures voice lead really close to each other, and it sounds great on any instrument. After 2 measures of the 1 major 7 chord, the chord turns into a minor 7 chord, now functioning as the 2 chord, and the pattern resets. Let's hear all this one more time. So another tip for longer patterns like these is sometimes you can extract a smaller part of it that you really like and get a lot of mileage out of just that fragment by applying it to multiple different contexts. For example, let's say we really like that Lydian grip sound from the flat 7 of that dominant 7 chord. Let's go ahead and just take that 4-note set of pitches and apply it on any dominant chord. Nice. Now see about improvising different orders of those pitches within a static dominant 7 chord. Great. Now let's see if you can solo using the Lydian grip over every dominant 7 chord within a tune. The possibilities are endless. Cool. So the next pattern comes from the cells chapter of the resource. I tried demonstrating this one in the intro of this video. Let's first hear it in half steps, then we'll break it all down. So what's going on here? This is a descending 4-3-1-5 cell. It's really an inversion of its bass form, one of my favorite sounds, the 1-3-4-5. But for this cell, we play this sound like this instead. Then we modulate it up and down in half steps. Let's hear all this one more time. So an important tip, whenever you're working on patterns that rapidly modulate in half steps, always consider modulating them in other intervals as well during your practice sessions. You'll find that this creates excitingly brand new colors. Let's hear that same cell, but in whole steps this time. How about minor thirds? What about major thirds? Not only is this really cool and fun to hear, but also the extra work that this takes for your brain to do will cement it further into your memory in the long run. Great, so let's get into the final pattern of today's video. This is a hexatonic pattern found in the last chapter of the resource. First, let's hear it, then we'll break it down. Pretty. What's going on here? Each measure is a cell based on a pattern within a hexatonic scale. A hexatonic scale is any scale that's only 6 notes. In this case, we took a C major scale and removed the F, and now it sounds like this. This scale does not have a widely recognized name, even though it's used pretty often. Not super often in old school jazz or bebop, but definitely in a lot of new jazz coming out today. For convenience, I just call it a major scale omit 4. But again, this is not an official term, don't quote me on this. It's an effective scale that has no avoid tones, and when you try patterns within it, you can unlock some really pretty sounds. In this case, I started on the 7th, B, and walked down 2 scale tones to the 5th, G. Then skipped down 3 scale tones to the root C, remember the 4 is not included, then walk up 1 scale tone, then walk up 6 scale tones. From here, the pattern repeats. And look, I know, this graphic analysis is an utter nightmare. No one, and I mean no one, is thinking of this in the moment of improvisation. Which brings me to my last tip. Once you understand the logic of a line, all you have to do from there is just practice playing it and singing it over and over and over. After a few days, the ear will take over and you will just instinctually know what note is supposed to come next. And if you don't, you'll at least know for sure whenever you're not playing it right. And from there, you'll quickly error correct yourself and keep proceeding. At that point, you never need to think of this math jargon again. Unless you just want to, because you're a nerd. I'm a nerd. Anyway, let's hear all this one more time. Well, alrighty everyone, that concludes today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and again, if you're interested in downloading our brand new resource, 100 Patterns for Jazz Improvisation, don't forget that you can use the code PATTERNS5 for $5 off. And as always, please consider leaving a like and subscribe below, as it really helps this channel grow. Till next time, everyone. Cool.